In the book of Genesis, the very foundation of the Old Testament, we encounter the story of creation and the dawn of humanity. Adam and Eve emerge as the first humans, beings of innocence and purity, dwelling in the idyllic Garden of Eden. This paradise was their home, a place of abundance and harmony. They lived in blissful ignorance until their fateful fall from grace, succumbing to temptation and forever altering the course of human history. The consequences of their actions reverberate through generations. Their sons, Cain and Abel, represent the first generation born outside the garden. They represent the first generation, the children of the first humans, born into a world now marked by struggle, a world vastly different from the paradise their parents once knew. The ground was cursed, and labor became a necessity. Jealousy, a dark seed planted in the human heart, leads Cain to murder Abel, his own brother. This marks the first act of violence in human history, a tragic event that stains the earth and forever changes the relationship between humanity and the divine. As punishment for his heinous crime, Cain is condemned to wander the earth, exiled from his home and cursed to a life of displacement, forever marked as a fugitive and a wanderer. He is forced to leave his family and the familiar behind, yet the narrative takes a curious turn, a detail that has puzzled theologians and scholars for centuries. Cain, the wanderer, finds a wife in the land of Nod, a place east of Eden. This raises a profound question that has echoed for centuries, a question that challenges our understanding of the Genesis narrative. Where did Cain's wife come from? If, according to the biblical account, only Adam, Eve, and their sons existed at this time, where did Cain find a partner? The mystery of Cain's wife is a compelling enigma, challenges our understanding of the Bible's earliest chapters, prompting us to delve deeper into the text and consider alternative interpretations. It invites deeper exploration of the historical and cultural context of the Genesis narrative. Was the early human family larger than we're explicitly told in the scriptures? Were there other tribes or groups of people existing alongside Adam and Eve's descendants? Or does the answer lie in ancient customs and traditions unfamiliar to us today, perhaps involving intermarriage within a broader unmentioned population? The question remains open for interpretation and debate. The Bible's account of Cain's wife is strikingly brief, almost an aside in the grand narrative. It presents a puzzle that has intrigued readers and scholars for centuries. Genesis 4 simply states that Cain settled in the land of Nod, a place of wandering east of Eden, took a wife, a woman whose origins are not explicitly stated, and fathered a son, Enoch, without any explicit explanation of her origins, leaving us to infer from the broader context. Her identity is left a blank space in the story, a silent question mark, her presence assumed as a necessity for the continuation of Cain's line, but unexplained in detail. The text, so detailed about the fall of man and the severity of Cain's punishment for fratricide, is remarkably silent on this crucial point of lineage. For the ancient authors, the specific identity of Cain's wife was not the primary focus of the narrative. Her role was simply to continue the lineage, to ensure the survival and propagation of humanity after the expulsion from Eden. However, Genesis 5, in its genealogical records, offers a subtle but important clue. Adam and Eve, after the birth of Seth, had other sons and daughters, expanding their family beyond the named individuals, beyond Cain, Abel, who perished, and Seth, who carried the promised line. This suggests that the early human family was much larger and more interconnected than the narrative's focus on the main characters and their immediate descendants might imply. The most direct and logical reading, given the limited population at the time, is that Cain's wife was, in fact, his sister, a daughter of Adam and Eve, born after Cain and Abel, whose individual name and story are unrecorded in the annals of Genesis. The Bible doesn't explicitly spell this out in black and white, but it provides all the necessary pieces and context for this conclusion to be reasonably drawn. The narrative's primary aim is to trace a specific theological lineage, the line leading to redemption, not to meticulously document every single member of the early human family. Cain's wife, while absolutely essential to the continuation of the story and the human race, remains a shadowy figure in the background of the biblical narrative, her mystery and unrecorded identity left for theologians, historians, and readers to ponder and debate throughout the ages. For centuries, Jewish and Christian tradition has held that Cain married his sister. This view accepts Adam and Eve as the sole ancestors, making sibling marriage a necessity for early humanity. Ancient texts like the Book of Jubilees even name Cain's wife as Awan, his sister. The idea is that incest prohibitions came much later, and the early gene pool was considered pure. In this context, sibling unions were not taboo but essential for survival and fulfilling the command to be fruitful and multiply. For generations, this explanation was accepted as a simple fact of the world's beginning. To understand Cain's wife, we must see marriage as the ancients did, a practical alliance for survival and lineage. In early societies, family ties were broad, and marrying within the clan was common, even encouraged. The patriarchs of Genesis often married close relatives to preserve heritage and property. Mosaic law's later incest prohibitions didn't exist in Cain's time. The world was empty, and populating it was paramount. A brother-sister union, while shocking today, would have been seen as necessary then. The ancient audience would not have found this troubling. It fit the logic of their world. The Genesis story is less about biology and more about the origins of humanity and civilization. The details, like Cain's wife, serve the larger narrative, not modern expectations. Today, science offers a different view of human origins. Genetics and anthropology show that humanity arose from a large population, not a single family. A literal reading of Genesis doesn't align with the evidence for a diverse, ancient human gene pool. Historians see Genesis as a foundational myth, not a scientific account. The story of Cain and Abel may symbolize ancient conflicts between farmers and herders. Some propose the pre-Adamic theory. Adam and Eve were the first with a spiritual relationship to God, but not the first humans. In this view, Cain could have found a wife among other people already present. While not mainstream, this theory tries to bridge faith and science. The question of Cain's wife. It's a query that has echoed through the ages, sparking debate and fueling countless interpretations. It's a question that delves into the very fabric of the Genesis narrative, has inspired a spectrum of theories, each offering a unique lens through which to view this ancient conundrum. These theories range from the literal to the allegorical, each attempting to reconcile the biblical text with our understanding of history and human origins. The traditional view, deeply rooted in centuries of interpretation, holds that Cain married a sister, a daughter of Adam and Eve. This perspective suggests accepting different rules at humanity's dawn, a time when the imperative to procreate outweighed concerns about genetic diversity. It posits a world where the survival of the species necessitated familial unions. Another theory, gaining traction in modern scholarship, suggests Genesis focuses on one specific lineage, the line of Seth, leaving room for other people outside Adam's family, existing independently in other regions. This interpretation allows for a broader understanding of the ancient world, acknowledging the possibility of diverse populations coexisting. This would explain Cain's fear of others, his apprehension about potential threats in the world beyond his immediate family, and his ability to find a wife in Nod, a land populated by these other people. A third approach, favored by some theologians and scholars, sees Genesis as allegory, a symbolic representation of deeper truths. Within this framework, Cain and his wife are viewed as archetypes, not historical figures, representing universal aspects of the human condition. For literalists, those who adhere strictly to the text, the sister theory fits the biblical narrative. It's a straightforward explanation within the context of a limited early population. But for others, the story transcends literal interpretation. It's a myth, a powerful narrative imbued with deeper meanings about human nature, sin, and redemption. Each interpretation ultimately reflects the reader's worldview, their pre-existing beliefs and assumptions. It's a dance between faith, science, or a blend of both, a synthesis of different ways of knowing. The mystery persists, not because of a lack of information, but because the text invites, rather than answers, our questions, prompting us to engage with the narrative on a deeper level. The search for Cain's wife is really a search, not for a specific individual, for how we read and understand ancient stories, how we grapple with narratives that predate our modern sensibilities. The enduring puzzle is less about her identity, her name, or her origins, and more about the nature of the narrative itself. its purpose, and its enduring power to provoke thought and inspire interpretation. The mystery of Cain's wife endures because it sits at the crossroads of faith and reason. It challenges us to consider what we expect from sacred texts, literal history, spiritual truth, or both. For believers, it prompts deeper theological reflection. For skeptics, it highlights the Bible's ambiguities. The debate mirrors our ongoing struggle to reconcile ancient beliefs with modern knowledge. In the end, the value of the question lies not in a final answer, but in the exploration it inspires. It invites us to revisit ancient worlds, question our assumptions, and reflect on the stories that shape us. The question persists not because the answer is hidden, but because the act of asking deepens our understanding. Cain's wife remains a symbol of the enduring mysteries at the heart of our oldest stories.